you have senators, you have city council members who can defund the police for you if you make them. So we got to vote somewhere. And I understand if you can't conscientiously vote in the general election, but vote for your senators, vote for your council members, and vote for your district attorneys. You know, particularly any kind of language.
Like cussing?
Yeah. I'm not gonna run it. I'm not gonna run your FCC meeting.
I don't have one. we're on the internet, baby.
The internet, man. Say what you want.
Yeah. Okay, we're going.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey, Avery Jones.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good, Zane. It's good to see you again, man.
It's great to see you. I can't believe it's been apparently like
Probably like a year,
like
maybe
13 months.
Yeah. Yeah, man. No, I mean, shoot. I have this thing where like I kind of like disappear. I mean, you know me for a good little bit,
Yeah.
so you know that I'll be off for a second and I'll come back. But no, it's good to see you. I mean, like, so I guess you just started in the place and now you settled in.
Yeah. I haven't been here for too long, but I really like being in Tempe.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a place to shoot a podcast, bro, this is.
Yeah, no, I love this space, and like when the pandemic happened, like I didn't know if I was gonna.
You had to chill.
Oh, I didn't know if I was gonna move to family or not because it was just like, hey, like, is it time to save money? Right. And with you
what's
know,
your range, like 500 below or what?
Don't blow up my spot.
Yeah, right. It's just how much is Zane's rent?
Rent is like good here. It's like pretty normal. It's like not it's not egregious.
Yeah.
I'll tell you later. But yeah, like I was lucky enough to like not lose my job or anything, you know.
Yeah.
So the thought was like, okay, do I want to just like stack a bunch of money by like going to live at home or what? But
yeah,
I wound up deciding to stay because my thought was just like, you know, once all this shit is over and it goes back to normal, I'll have to find a place again, and I know I won't find somewhere I enjoy as much as here. And I think there is something to be said about like.
Oh my bad. Are you set on being away from home? I mean, you were there for a long time.
Oh.
Sorry. Your place of. I imagine you were born in the metal manger at your pop's old place. But like, are you like set on being away from home at this time? You know, 24 years old.
You know, if I ever really need to go stay at home, like I would. And I guess it's funny having me say that since we are in the middle of a global pandemic. And I guess if there was that time, it would be now.
Right. Uh-huh.
I was lucky enough to not lose my job though, so you know that would be a different.
Those who did.
Yeah. So like that would be a different discussion.
Yeah, right.
The big thing is like we're all over 6 foot in like a tiny
I got you
South Phoenix house built in the 30s, and you know it's like they have a good amount of space, but I just, with the amount of shit I own and the amount of stuff they have in the corners and stuff, right. And like me getting kind of cooped up all the time, like I felt like maybe I would go a little bit stir crazy and stuff, and I was just so then I was starting to think like, oh, do I go to my grandparents' house, and do I want to just be in Scottsdale? And I just really like being in Tempe when it. Because I don't think I'll be in Arizona forever. Right. I think it would be cool to wind up in a different state or different country. Like I really don't know what the rest of my life will look like.
It's definitely, that's something to consider, bro. I've actually been looking at it. Some of these other countries that are still developing, man, the American dollar is powerful.
Something my friend Jay said, a little QWERTY on Twitter. He was, and it was like it was at the beginning of the pandemic. I think he was like, man, if we all stay here after this, it's Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah. It's pretty close. I mean, yes, there's, but to just kind of find it and explore what else is around. Because in America, you can get caught up in like this, even if you don't ascribe to it. If you're a left person and you're like, you know, fuck the government, whatever, this, that, and the third, you can still be caught up in America's the leader of the world. America's the free nation, the nation that has to lead the world. That's not necessarily the case. Everybody has an equal stake in this little ball that we call home. You know?
Well, I think the really funny thing is that like ever since we're young, like we're taught, like our parents are kind of teach us.
We're taught that we won every war that we fought, you know?
Well, not that too, but what I was going to say is like anytime like our parents try to tell us to calm down from a point of privilege, they always say like, you live in a free country. It's like, there's a lot of free countries.
There's a lot of free countries to start.
And a lot of them have healthcare.
And a lot of them have healthcare. Some of those European ones are a little expensive though.
Yeah.
There's some other ones out there where you can start a business. I don't want to give it. Vietnam, you can get out there and do really great in the textile business. You can rent for like $350 you can rent an apartment for $350 a month.
That's the thing. I remember having conversations like that with my mom when I was a kid, and pretty much all my family is like pretty liberal or progressive, you know. Like but even still, like I remember like having conversations about that with family as a kid, and I think like the way they explained it was like, oh, well, they have all that nice stuff, but if you go to buy jeans, it's really expensive. And as a kid, I was like, oh, that sounds like a trade-off. But now that I'm older, I'm like, I'll pay more for jeans if I don't have to pay for an ambulance.
Like, I mean, we can talk about this at length, but like there's a lot of things that, I mean, in America, and I guess this is what I'm talking about. Like in America, we're told that we have a lot of privileges, but then you get down to brass tacks when you talk about healthcare and stuff, and suddenly that's something that you have to earn, or it's attached to your job, or why are you asking for a handout? You know, it's this American dream or this capitalist like hamster wheel that we got to run through, and you're just not allowed to question it.
I think the big thing a lot of people get like stuck in when it comes to their frustrations of, you know, the conversation of how good is it really, or you should be more grateful, or it can be a lot better, is it's just like we're on this infinite arrow in time, you know? So it's like it's always the best time to be alive, and it always could be better.
Yeah.
You know, it's like those two things are always true. Because like sometimes you hear like really like right-leaning people like Ben Shapiro try to like discredit like inequities by saying like, well,
you're in the best country in the world.
Yeah, well,
and
not
that's
only
the end of the conversation.
Well, even on top of that, he'll say it's the best time it's ever been, and I've heard him make the argument before, like, well, the average poor family in the past couldn't buy a TV with like 300 networks on it. And I'm like, listen, man, like that's cool and all,
but we live in a reality where you can't stop working for 2 weeks. You know, at least a lot of people out there are struggling right now to pay rent. You know, that's going all the way up the chain.
And like I see his point that like the baseline quality of existence is technically higher, you know, but
he's not into smallpox, but that's not.
Yeah,
let's not hand out awards for that.
This book I just finished reading right here is called Ishmael, and the whole premise of the book is it's this gorilla who was in a zoo for a number of years. He taught himself how to speak just by like context clues, and he considers himself an expert in captivity because of his life, and this wealthy benefactor got him out of there, and he became this learned scholar of like all of like world history. And now he believes he sees really transparently what the history of the world and the history of humanity is. And he thinks that the human race is imprisoned, but they just don't know what the bars are. So he's looking for a student to kind of make them woke. And and to basically in turn save the world. So this author is like, if I can get this information out there, maybe it would be good.
Right.
And shit, I wish I remembered my original point.
It's all good. I mean, I think if the point is we live in a prison, that's 100%.
Oh, it was the whole things are better now than they used to be thing. One thing he was talking about is basically how the story we've all told ourselves, not in any one country or religion or culture, but since the dawn of man, is like we have this lie, this myth that all humans tell ourselves, and it's that the world is made for man, and that the sharpening point of the entire universe is like human minds and souls and bodies. And that comes down to the fact that like we just constantly don't consider animal consciousness as the same as human consciousness. And you can get into really granular things like whether or not plants have feelings and shit like that, you know. But one example he talked about was like if you took like the average American homeless person and you told them, hey, I can give you this box, and if you push it and it would bring you back to hunter-gatherer times, like would you push that box? And he was saying like even those people are so hanging on to like the current notion of like what the world should be and what America should be, and this baseline quality of existence that nobody would do it. And I found that really interesting because he was talking about how like, you know, from a biology standpoint, like in theory, like, oh, like back in hunter-gatherer times, like everybody like slept with the sun cycles and were like really well fed and had like proper diets, and like this is a very out there conversation topic, but the idea is that like we're so tied to these core ideas of like what society is supposed to be,
what it's supposed to be, exactly.
We accept like inequities and things
it's the status quo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, status quo is a powerful thing, especially right now.
Somebody may have understood that, and I feel like some people might be like, what the fuck is Zane saying?
Yeah.
It's a very good book. I recommend the book.
No, but status quo, like that's really what we're fighting against. We're not fighting. Let's not say fighting. But like we've come to a junction point in like our time, right? This is on some like freedom summer 70s, 1970s, 1960s, all those historical times. They're happening right now. Mm-hmm. So there's a status quo of the way that things have been done, and there's a question, and everything is coming into question, from like, how are we getting people food? How do you get food when things close down? And how do you enforce the laws of our government?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things Andrew Yang talked about a lot when it came to like why things are the way they are is that like if you look at a lot of studies right now, statistically, like trust in institutions at every level is at like a multi-decade low.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but like when it comes to trust in education, medical institutions, law enforcement, like pretty much every major thing that we're supposed to look up to and think they got it. Mm-hmm. Public opinion of those things is lower than it's been since like the 70s in pretty much every range.
Yeah, because we can talk about the merits of defund the police, but this is a systematic taking of allocations. We've been constantly cutting the arts. We've been constantly cutting education. We've been giving education to certain. We've had hotspots of education where people are, and hotspots of just privilege in general. Nothing wrong with being the recipient of that, but how do we make an equitable society? And we're just trapped in these sort of things, and my bad. I'm trying to make speeches. I should try to talk to my buddy Zane real quick. But
well, no, I mean that's why I like podcasts and stuff like this, because we can just have like a long, nuanced conversation. Exactly. Because like you just said, we can discuss like the merits of defund the police, and like that's the sort of thing right now. Like most of this conversation is happening through like one-off tweets and people trying to like end each other and like Instagram stories, and it's like a lot of these people are sharing like those things where it's like maybe a 5-picture post and you can learn 5 slides of information, but even then, like all this stuff is like very heady stuff that you should, maybe you get somebody recommending a podcast, and that's why I'm glad you and I get to have this conversation, but it's like a lot of this stuff is really nuanced and based in like numbers and shit like that. So, yeah.
Well, maybe we should just talk by like, hitting on like why I really wanted to talk to you today, because there's not anything particularly special about me, I wanted to talk about this.
Well, for some context, you and I have known each other since we were like 12.
Yeah.
So like half our lives now.
Yeah. Grew up in like basically the same area, South Phoenix.
Yeah.
Houses were like three streets apart.
We didn't know that till like the week you moved away, though. That was because you and I were both going to school in a district so fucking far away.
Yeah, exactly.
We both grew up thinking that we had no friends.
To Tempe. Yeah, I thought we had no friends. Like I wish somebody lived close to me so I could hang.
And then this one time you're like, yo, Zane, I hear you live in South Phoenix. Any chance your dad could take me to school this morning? I'm like, yeah, shoot me the address. I'm like, Avery, you're like my fucking neighbor.
Dang, man.
This whole time I could have been swimming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was cool.
Yeah. I wish we knew. So you hit me up because you and I were catching up, and obviously like the world's on fire a little bit right now. And,
a little bit.
There is Arizona primary elections on August 4th, and I actually have some dates written down here. I'll just read them off really quick. So for these primary elections, voter registration is on July 6th. The last day to request ballot by mail is Friday, July 24th. The last day for early in-person voting is July 31st, and election day is Tuesday, August 4th. You and I were both on the We the People high school political competitive team, so you and I had a little bit of...
Studied a little constitutional law in high school.
Yeah, and then neither of us really went to college for it, but we have...
kind of dropped the political bug or whatever it is.
Yeah, right? But you and I have always been interested in being like...
obviously you're a big Yang supporter and everything.
Yeah, well, even past that, like just being like engaged citizens and just trying to know what's going on, even if we're not like the most politically smart or
no, too uninformed, definitely dummies right here. So don't take all the words, do your research as you're listening to us.
Yeah, because most of the time I'm talking about something, like I'm just like talking about like numbers and plans that I've seen that make sense to me, and I'm like, okay, I'll put this stuff out there, see if it resonates with anybody else. But I never pretend to like have the answers necessarily. But when I see shit, and like the main reason I like Yang so much is like his stuff is just so like backed on like here's some data, and like for me I'm like it's hard to fight that stuff, and like I really like a lot of Bernie stuff too, but like those sorts of speakers that seem so tied.
People who are oriented towards solutions.
Yeah, oriented towards solutions and who are like grounded in what's morally like correct for like the right and wrong of humanity. That's why those two guys to me are like the best guys.
Yeah.
So you hit me up and wanted to just chop it up about what's going on.
Just
and
wanted to chop it up.
And we knew that an election was coming up, and maybe this sort of stuff would be good to talk about and let people know. Hey, we should probably vote before Arizona just gets a bunch of muckety bucks in there.
Yeah, I mean, like, so Zane, obviously, man, you put up a signal, bro. You're doing your thing. You're like, you put up, you put on 8 people from ASU Film School, local rappers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's a platform. And what do? Right? We're 24, something like that.
Yeah.
I just feel like last time this happened, when it was,
Trump and Hillary?
No, not Trump and Hillary. When it was the last time there were riots out, man, in the streets.
Oh.
Out in Ferguson.
Ferguson, yeah. That was like 2015.
Yeah, it was 2015. And I looked at myself and I thought about what I could do. And I looked at all the other people around, the people who turned into AOC and that kind of stuff. And there was just this overall character of the people in power at that time. It's like, all right, let's go ahead and sit down. Like, grown-ups will handle this.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just see such a profound, and I'm not even going to bring up Trump's name. I see such a profound, from the top down, a profound lack of leadership. And like, I'm looking around, COVID-19 failures, failures of getting people money, constant bailouts of the corporations and stuff. It's just, I'm looking around, it's like, where are the adults? I'm 23 years old, about to be 24. Yeah. It's like, what are we going to do? And, from that kind of dark place, you're like, what can you do? I'm not a politician. I'm a professional. I write comic books.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Yeah.
So I see my friend out here. He's got a podcast. He's got a signal. And so best thing we can do for y'all out there is to compile information. Because sometimes, everybody out here, because people got stuff to do. People got TikToks to look at, whatever the fuck. If you can sit down here for a second, and we can go through the candidates for you, what, like, their positions mean. Like, what is it? There was, like, corporate assessor or something like that. We're going to look into that a little bit and hopefully figure out what all these names mean.
Yeah,
and what they do.
For anybody who watches the video episodes regularly, you'll notice that I have a monitor up here for the first time because we wanted to be able to do our Googles because we don't really know what we're doing. But
we are uninformed, but I thought that would be the best way to approach it because maybe a lot of other people out here are uninformed as well.
The only candidate I really know about right now, because it looks like Tempe, ironically, the city I live in, doesn't have shit up for the ballot.
Not really, no.
And it's just like there's a bunch of people in a lot of different districts in a lot of these different cities on the ballot. So like I just don't have like memorized information on any of these people, so like I don't know if we'll get as granular as talking about these.
And we also talked about maybe having another session where we get a little into it more deeply.
Yeah, we'll probably do some follow-up episodes mid-July and then post-election just to kind of talk about this stuff. So this is the first episode to break in. But the one candidate I do know about is her name is Suzanne Hugg, and she's running for Mesa District 24, and she is the only Democrat running. I know about her because Andrew Yang's organization, Humanity Forward, endorsed her because she's pro universal basic income and data rights, and his organization, Humanity Forward, is endorsing candidates who are in favor of those positions.
Sweet.
I can talk a little bit about why those two things are like the things on my radar the most. So people who know that like I talk about Yang a lot and UBI a lot, the big reason I think like universal basic income is so vitally important is like when Yang was campaigning, a lot of people know it was on the basis that he thought that automation is going to wipe out like all of the most common jobs in the economy, because right now the most common jobs in America are truck driver, retail, and call center service, and all three of those are being invested in heavily to be automated away via automation. And basically, if people don't have a baseline set of needs met via rent and groceries and things like that, what are we going to do? Right now, COVID kind of showed us what it looks like to be in Great Depression times, like 10 years early, by knocking us down to 43 million people unemployed. And some economists came out and said that they predict that 42% of these jobs are gone forever.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, that's about 18 million jobs gone right now.
Not only that, but the job competition, because the unemployment rate is going to be so high when we come out of this.
Yeah.
So anybody can just be like, I'm sorry, I got to pay you less because there's 40 million other people out there
Yeah.
who can do your job.
The
continue.
the 2000s recession we went to, that was a job loss of 7 million.
Yeah.
So right now we're already facing double.
Yeah, it's pretty unprecedented. I watched because after Joe Rogan had Kristen Segir on, I've been watching a lot of them. Mm-hmm. They had an economist on who said that there's not really a comparable time to the kind of unemployment that we're seeing. Yeah, go ahead and step away real quick, man. It's all good.
Yeah, you can keep talking.
Cool. Yeah, so, I mean, these are unprecedented times without a whole lot of parallels in history, which is why we need some unprecedented methods. And we need some unprecedented voters, which would be people from me and yours age group, 24 and down. And up as well, because we all need to be a part of the solution. We don't need to be fighting each other anymore. We just need to look at.
I'm embarrassed. I forgot the laptop charger.
Oh, it's all good. Okay,
at least we're not.
Did you forget the camera charger?
No. Camera's good. Camera's
Cool,
good.
sweet.
We're not gonna die mid roll now.
All right, man.
But yeah, so it's like the other thing is there have been studies shown. So like in Canada, there was a city that experimented with UBI in the 70s, and they found that pretty much nobody quit their jobs, and the only people who really did stop working were like stay-at-home moms. And it was inherently stimulative. And in 2017, the Roosevelt Institution did a study that found that the basis of $1,000 a month would have the effect of growing the economy by like $14 billion or something like that, like over the course of 8 years. And I might have that figure wrong, but it basically the point is like the poverty line in America is $12,700. If everybody has a guaranteed $12,000 a year, that doesn't really encourage people to quit their jobs so much as it just kind of gives them a beacon of hope to pay off their debt, pay their rent, pay their groceries, and then they just have a baseline level of existentialism lifted. So then they can use their money towards things like daycare, hiring new employees, starting a business, becoming an artist.
And I think that for me, that's what really sells the argument for me, is that when people have a sort of baseline met and they can afford to make the initial investment into a business, it seems like that would start it.
Yeah, and then right now we have billion-dollar companies like Amazon, Facebook, Netflix, etc. paying $0 in taxes because they're cheating our income tax code because they're able to just funnel their money into offshore accounts and also award themselves stock options and then write it off.
Yeah.
And like it sounds crazy, but it's really that simple. Like
more power to you, but that comes from the lawmakers, man. And
yeah.
Who puts the lawmakers in? That's us, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really fuck Amazon. They're literally following the law and getting away with it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of on us to be like, oh, we should change this, and that and that's why he wanted to institute.
I guess it needs to be. I mean, like, as citizens, as normal everyday Joes, right? We got to put in the work to make life easier and simpler for us, right? We got to look at if billions of dollars can make you look out for you, if Jeff Bezos can look after himself for that, then we got to come together as sort of a community, which is why I think we got to zoom in at the local level. And so I don't know, maybe we focus on like Maricopa County or maybe the main bigger population center, Scottsdale, Chandler, Tempe, Phoenix, and then the market is wide open, Coconino or whatever, and whatever county Tucson is in. I was just in Bisbee. All those places, like everybody everywhere has got to just talk about who's around you. Mm-hmm. And so like kind of with that, I know that from my research, what I've been able to find is that we're dealing with mostly state senators and then obviously Mark Kelly versus Martha McSally, mm-hmm. and then state senators at the local level where those are lawmakers for the city ordinances and stuff like that.
Have you been getting all those YouTube ads telling you that Mark Kelly is like
he's
a communist traitor
like
and Martha McSally approves this message?
I guess we'll have to look into that. But
I don't know about all that. Yeah. But the fact that she's even running those ads just makes me trust her less because I'm like, why are you running these slam ads making Mark Kelly like look like this like?
Yeah. I don't know much about Mark Kelly going into it, so we're gonna look at it.
Do you want to just Google their names right now and see what happens?
Yep. Let's see what's going on.
Let's do Martha first.
Martha McSally. What's she running on? What's her main deal?
I don't know.
Fighting for Arizona?
About.
I don't know, because I've heard both things about Martha McSally. I've heard that she has gone against Trump in a few things. I've heard all sorts of things about her, and I'm uninformed. So this is what we're doing. We're going into the website right now.
Her website's immediately difficult to navigate. Like I can't even find her issues page easily.
How can we help? About individual resources, small business resources. These are resources sworn into the Senate. Scroll down a little bit because I thought I saw something about committee assessments, energy and natural resources, Indian affairs. These are all just committees.
Her website is very confusing.
Let's roll.
Where are we supposed to click? I can't even understand what she stands for. Let's. You want to Google Mark Kelly really quick?
Let's go to Mark Kelly real quick.
All right. So immediate feel on Martha McSally.
Yeah.
She makes it real confusing. Yo. So if you Google Mark Kelly's name, already. There's an ad
for U.S. Senate.
There's another ad that comes up that says "Big Money Mark Kelly. Mark Kelly is in China's pocket."
Yeah, okay.
Jesus Christ.
Somebody does not want you to vote for Mark
No,
Kelly.
like they're really like running these attack ads on this dude.
So the mission comes first.
Yeah, see, he just
there we go. So this is something that I appreciate.
He just has an
if
issues
I'm looking
page,
at somebody's
like,
is that you have issues page.
And also, I don't think that them having good website UI makes them the person to vote for
No,
immediately.
but being able to find their
just,
issues, their stances on the issues is helpful.
Because going back to what you and I were saying about like where are the adults, it's just the government should know how to use Squarespace.
Yeah.
All right, so his categories are healthcare, veterans, economy and jobs, Medicare, Social Security, education, national security, women's rights, gun safety, and climate change.
Let's look at gun safety. I think that if we're living in a red state, to kind of start there, this will be a good selling point for people who to vote for him or to not vote for him.
Mark is a combat veteran,
gun owner, combat veteran.
He who was nearly killed in a shooting. And an advocate for common sense, effective gun laws. Mark understands that a commitment to our rights and traditions is in no way incompatible with working to keep us safe from gun violence. Whoa, this is a short page. He doesn't really have too much on this. Arizona families regularly experience the tragedy of gun violence. Every year, the state sees an average of 244 gun homicides, 669 firearm suicides, and 582 non-fatal shootings, and 553 accidental shootings. Yeah, that's something to just sidestep really quick. I learned this last year. The vast majority of gun deaths per year are suicides and accidental shootings inside the house. So, like, obviously, like, for good reason, the conversation around gun violence, like, mostly is, like, homicides, whether or not it's, like, police brutality or just, like, actual murder being committed, like, crime. But a big thing is just, like, guns in the house from, like, untrained people or mentally ill people or whatever it is.
If I have anything to say about it, I think that just being aware and being safe with it is the way to go. I understand that people are very into the Second Amendment and they want their rights, and I'm with it. But I think that being smart about it in somewhere that's in the realm of having a license, in the realm of being trained, I think those are all things to look for. And it looks like Mark Kelly is right around the same area, looking for common sense gun laws, but not trying to have a crusade against the Second Amendment. It doesn't seem like, based off what we've read.
His page just doesn't really have anything that specific in terms of like what he wants to do.
So nothing specific there on what he wants to do.
That's kind of what I've noticed about some of these local level people. Like when I was going on some of the presidential candidates pages, they get like really specific in like what they want to accomplish as president. But then back when we had Corey Woods running for mayor of Tempe, which he won, he takes office on July 2nd. When I was on his issue pages, I liked the sound of some of the things he said.
These things are doctored a little bit.
But they were single sentence bullet pointed list.
Okay.
And I was just like, well,
I want to know a little more.
Well, it just kind of reminded me of like a middle school, like, here's what I'm going to do as class president. Yeah. Like, it was just like, they were like one sentence things, and I just like want to, I want to see like more specifics. And,
Got you.
And like, I don't know, like, I don't know if that's just innately the nature of doing state level stuff.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Well, I guess the hope then is that when you want more action, you vote against the person, whoever it is, like you just keep that cycling so that things are happening and that people know that the voter base is populated and willing to act against the actions that are not being taken or being taken. Let's go into something more general. Let's kind of look at the districts, because I sent you a picture of the districts that had people up for office and ready to go.
Do you know how I could find that again?
Yeah, if you just if you pull up your Facebook and then grab from the messenger just one of those pics that I got from you.
Let me do that over here.
And then we can talk about all the people in Maricopa County, which counties have council members, and counties and cities. So county level Maricopa County, then all the cities that have council members and senators up for the ballot on August 4th.
This one?
Yeah, that one right there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for my eyes.
Yeah, and I'll zoom in.
All right, so this is Maricopa County Elections Department, August 4th. In Apache Junction, if y'all out in Apache Junction, you have a mayor and council members on the ballot this August. Avondale has mayors and council members number 3. And then in Apache Junction, you also have a general plan on your ballot. For Avondale, you have your mayor, your council members. Home rule is also on the ballot. Buckeye, mayor, council members, districts 1, 2, and 3. Carefree, mayor and council members, number 6. Cave Creek, mayor, council members, number 6, home rule. Chandler, council members, 3 of them. El Mirage, council members, 3. Fountain Hills, mayor and council members, 3. Gila Bend, council members. Gilbert, mayor, council members, general plan. Glendale, mayor, council members, Cactus, Saguaro, Yucca. Guadalupe, mayor, council members, 3. Home rule. Litchfield, council members, 3. Mayor, council members, districts 1, 2, and 3. Paradise Valley, mayor, council members, 3. Peoria, council members, Ironwood, Mesquite, Willow. Queen Creek, council members, mayor, council members. For Scottsdale, Surprise, Arizona, mayor, council members, and a 5 to 2 year term is on the ballot. I'm not sure what that means, but that may be a limitation for the terms of your council members, which is important. I think you should have your council members and anybody who's in government just switched out over a regular period of time. Tolleson, council members, 3. Wickenburg, mayor and council members, and Youngstown, council members, 3. Cool.
There's a lot of mayors on the ballot.
There's a lot of mayors on the ballot. Those are powerful people.
Yeah.
In terms of if you are somebody who is motivated by the Black Lives Matter movement that is happening right now, your council members and your mayors are the people who decide the budget for these things. So that's the good first place to start in terms of going for defund the police, which maybe we want to talk about a little bit, like what we think about that.
Here, let me I have the budget for Tempe that was just up for debate.
Yeah, that was debated and protested by the Black Lives Matter movement. I believe they got pushed out of there, though.
So the Tempe budget that was put on Tempe's government website, it had 3,100 visitors and 1,900 responses from public people. So about like a 60% or 2/3 or so, amount of people like filed a response, which I'm just like, come on, guys. Let's see here. Close topics. Budget. So so this was a little bit staggering to me. So if you look at the Tempe, Arizona's budget, you'll see things like sustainability office, $166,000, and then police force, $96.86 million, and then fire, $41 million, just for reference point of another emergency service. But yeah, so like sustainability, which seems pretty freaking important, like 1/10 of a million, but then 96.8.
The police in Tempe are funded for $96 million this next session.
What I'm really interested in specifically is where that money even goes.
Yeah, I don't know where you would find that.
Because something like me and my friend looked into is how much they get paid, and apparently like
they don't get paid that much.
Yeah, it's like $40,000. So then my next thought is like, how many officers are there? Yeah. Because if you multiply $40,000 enough times, you'll get to a few $1 million pretty easy. But then after that, it's like, where does all this money go? Because the other thing I found out is a lot of this like military grade weapons that they're getting is actually provided for free from the from the feds. Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, like here.
Because that's where I thought all that money was going.
That's what I would have thought too, and maybe a portion of it is because I know something I saw a lot of people like talking about online was how Tempe police put in a request to update from having 90 like AR-15s to 120 of them, and people were like, why do you need 30 more? And why do you have 90 in the first place? And it's like, I don't know how many officers they have, but I also don't know that they need one per officer. It's like, or even why they need those at all.
But again, just to be clear for those people who are listening, the city council is the body that decides what money goes to where. And the Tempe City Council already made this decision. They're not up for the ballot yet, but hey, maybe we can go and circle back to Chandler, maybe some of the other more populated cities to see what their budgets are and who may be the best options for that. But for now, let's keep going on the thought.
Here, let me read something I've written down from my notes on my doc here. So, since 1997, 8,000 police departments have received more than $5.1 billion in surplus military equipment from the Department of Defense under Program 1033. This includes clothing and computers all the way up to armored vehicles and grenade launchers. One study showed that receiving more military equipment increased police-related deaths in a district One study showed that receiving more military equipment increased police-related deaths in a district. Officially, any received equipment must be used within a year or returned, creating a culture where officers have a use it or lose it thing, where basically if they have a grenade launcher, they're going to use it
so at some point,
their grenade launcher.
Incredible. So they have to deploy it at least.
Yeah. President Obama reined in the program in 2015 and barred certain types of equipment, but this was reversed by Trump 2 years later. Restricting transfers of high-impact weapons would reduce civilian deaths and weaken the culture of militarization that has swept many police departments.
Wow.
So since 97, 8,000 departments have received more than $5.1 billion in surplus military equipment.
And they're incentivized to use it as well.
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff that these departments have is not even coming from their city budget. Now, that's only 8,000 departments in America, and I'm not...
Not sure if that falls.
I'm not sure how many departments there are in America, so I don't know if that's like Tempe, for instance, or Phoenix, which has a budget of like $750 billion, so almost like $1 trillion.
That's crazy.
But the point is like even then, that's where I'm really confused at where the money even goes, because if it's not towards
training
or pay or equipment, what the fuck is this money getting spent on?
Yeah. So and I don't know where you get to that.
I think
you went to go to the police department, you wanted to talk to them, or you went to their website.
I think that's like really what these like city council hearings are kind of for, and this is where like we as citizens just kind of ask them like, hey, on top of us giving you input on what we think you should allocate money for, can you explain how this is even being broken down? Because if you look at like this COVID stimulus package, for instance, where they like, printed out trillions of dollars, like 80% of it went to big corporations and 10% went to people, where like some of us got the $1,200 check, but not even...
I didn't.
Yes, there you go. Like a lot of people didn't, and it was a one-time thing. And then like 80%, and then like an 8-to-1 ratio more amount of money went to like corporations, and Steve Mnuchin, who's like Trump's boy, just like deciding where all this money goes. He officially stated that they're not going to release who got what money.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing. There's a lot of secrecy involved in like how this country is governed, and that's cool. I understand that there's national security and everything like that, but if you're talking about economics, what's coming to us, aid, I don't think we need to be secretive about aid.
It's because it's like for all we know, like a chunk of that money went to like Coca-Cola. It's like I would hope that it didn't, but
no, I mean Coca-Cola got their money, Zane. Let's not.
Yeah, it's like in theory they got more stimulus than like people did from these $1,200 checks, and it's just like God, they spend so much time during the election cycles telling us like, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? And then they do shit like this, so it's just. So anyway, we can go back to local issues, but
every issue is a local issue, right? So you have their lawmakers, and also in your local elections, you can determine your senator, which is a direct effect on how much power the president has. So but so August 4th again, the voter registration deadline is Monday the 6th. Let's not forget. Let's get moving a little bit.
I'm gonna try to get this podcast out either tomorrow or the next day. Very beginning of July, so this should be out in time for people to still register.
Yes, sir. And, and we got to make it happen, because I mean, like I said, 2015 they told us to sit down, but people like you and me, there's only so many years that you have before you got a job and kids, and you can't think about. And that's the thing. That's where they get you. You can't research for yourself. And we're gonna try, and we're gonna work on how we streamline the process to get you your information. We're gonna put it in a place where you can grab it.
Well, yeah, what you just said about people having jobs and kids not being able to pay attention to this stuff, it's like there's such a tone in the country sometimes of like, oh, whether or not it's reducing crime or increasing political activism or whatever it is, there's such a tone sometimes from powers being like, you should have been able to figure this out, or
right. When you go to their websites, it's all incomplete or non-specific language.
It's it's that whole like bootstraps argument, and it's like it's like you can always make the argument, like work hard and do stuff for yourself, but it's like we got to realize that the realities of people's lives are very difficult, and when we also give people like not a baseline to like exist off of in any way. It's just like, how do you expect people to like be informed or give a shit about any of this stuff? We make it so hard on people.
Hold yourself to a standard, but don't be blind. Don't be like, I'm pulling up myself by my bootstraps. Get up and do the same thing. Like, look around you and see and inform yourself about what's going on. And don't ever give up, you know. Don't fall into victimization. Like that's what everybody that's people might sometimes tell you, like, to pull your bootstraps up, and they're trying to be honest with you. Maybe some people are that argument is often used in a deceitful way, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. If it's used against you, hold yourself to a high standard, yes, but you gotta look around. And if your high standard is, I'm gonna get myself voted, and I'm gonna find out who my council members are and how much the budget is, and I'm gonna make sure that we have people who have that interest in mind as well.
Well, I think in life we always hear these stories about people who've like overcome like insurmountable odds, whether or not they were born into like a ridiculous, you know, life situation, like whether or not it's the neighborhood they're from or like a disability or whatever it is. And like, and like we hear these stories of these people who figure it out regardless, whether or not they became really successful or famous or a politician, like whoever it is. And like, we are very quick to point to those stories and be like, see, you don't have an excuse. But it's like the amount of the amount of mental willpower it takes to do that is like a legit.
It's a lot of willpower. It's a lot of luck, and it's the 1%, not the 1%.
And it's like the 1% of like mental well-being, because not everybody has the same parents, not everybody has the same drive and like access to information. So it's like when you look outside right now and like you see like the economic inequities and the amount of like unemployment and like drug addiction and just like how much stuff is happening that ties up people's like mental consciousness, not to even mention like what people's like screen time usage is and how like just tired people are all the time. It's like, like it's really difficult.
But like also just doesn't have to be that way. Can we do what people like Andrew Yang, people like Bernie Sanders say we want to do? Why is that impossible?
Right.
And if that's something that you feel, then know that you are a part. Well, if that's something that you feel, or if you see the status quo going crazy and old people are telling you that it's not your time yet, know that you are part of a sleeping voter base that's a giant that can make some real change in this country. And it can happen at every level, right? So, your friends will listen to this, my friends will listen to this, hopefully, and hopefully they at least know the dates, because we said the dates a couple times. And then all you got to do is look, and we're going to look for you a little bit. This is Tempe, but let's pull up Chandler, man. Let's say Chandler Municipal and see if we could find their budget, because I live in Chandler, and I know that they're a part of the election coming up, and what their proposed budget is for policing versus other things, and see if it's reasonable. Let's see if it's reasonable, I think, is the main idea that at least I want to go for. I'm not, an active member of the Black Lives Matter movement. I have protested. I think that moving and reallocating funds is the way to go. I think that 96 million, or, if you look around the country at all the different police precincts that are funded by the billions, do we need that? I think it's a reasonable question.
So it looks like Chandler actually has like a report done for surveying people's opinions on budget. I'm trying to find their budget itself, but it looks like it has like these opinions of like
what people want.
What people want, like first choice, like transportation, shit like that.
I agree. Just be like, Chandler.
Yeah. While I'm looking at this, you want to just talk about like what you think about Chandler and like all that?
Yeah, I mean, Chandler's it is a diverse community. It has a lot of people immigrated from countries like Asian countries in India. There's an Intel plant out there that brings a lot of those people out. It's a very safe, quiet community, and I've seen a lot of police out there. I haven't had too much trouble with them. I do not know how they have been funded, though. I would like to see that. We are at the Budget Division website now.
Damn, so it looks like when I Googled for this, Chandler not only has like a quarter-by-quarter budget report, but they also have like a month-to-month revenue and expenditure report, which was honestly not too hard to find.
Nice.
I didn't really...
Okay, so we're scrolling through right now, and we're finding...
Dear God,
there's some intense stuff. These are actual documents, I suppose.
Tempe's was more simplified, but also easy to read.
Yeah. So we're looking through it right now. General fund expenditures. Dang, this is deep stuff.
This is not what I want.
It's deep stuff.
I just want to break down. I just want to break down.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we're a little over our heads on that one.
These are bar graphs. I can't deal with bar graphs right
Heavy
now.
stuff, man. Yeah. Okay, what's this look like? Local sales tax revenue.
What?
It looks about. Oh, that looks. No, that's what you want.
Oh, is this what we want?
Mm-hmm. City clerk.
Okay, well, wait. This is 2019.
Well, that's probably good. They probably haven't made their 2020 yet, or no, we're in 2020.
Okay, so monthly revenue and expenditure report, May of 2020. Let's look at that. That seems like the closest to what we can get to.
Okay, so this is 1 month.
Or through, I think it says through May. So I think in theory this is January through May.
Gotcha. So what we're dealing with, like, kind of right now.
Okay, so we're from what we can tell, this is Chandler January through May, but we could be wrong.
Yeah. General fund expenditure summary. So this is what the funding is.
So right away it says police $76.7 million, and then fire department $37 million for comparison.
Got you. So there you go. Not quite 96 million, but quite on the funding side there.
I just want to know what it goes to.
If it's not to the weaponry, then I don't know what it could possibly be. And also, this is every month, right? That's just, well, not every month. This was from at least we said maybe January to May.
Yeah.
But that's like, this is happening 76 billion, right? 76 million or billion?
Million, not
76
billion,
million is happening multiple times a year, though. Multiple times a year. 76 million.
From what we can tell. Mm-hmm. we could be wrong. If this is the whole year, that even still is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, information and technology, 11 million.
Cultural development is pretty significant, though. I mean, nothing on here except for city clerk is below $1 million.
Yeah, Tempe,
which is good to know.
Tempe had a lot of stuff in like the 100,000s ranges.
Yeah, at least so that's good on Chandler's part to have.
I guess Chandler just has like a higher budget.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's there's some more affluent communities out there. You have the people out here from the university who don't have as much, who aren't paying as much taxes
it says total general fund expenditure $306.4 million. So like that's what they're working from to like divvy it all up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, like just to like for I don't know if we just like inundated people for 10 minutes with like just a bunch of numbers and with stuff, a bunch of abstract numbers. Like for you, like what would you want to see more of?
Yeah.
Just generally, like as somebody like living here and.
Well, honestly, I think overall, for the issue that is at hand in America, I think that keeping the budget the same and down as much as you can, giving them training, keeping the budget down. And looking in alternative ways all the way up to and including abolishment. But if that's not the case, and if that's not what the public wants, then we need training. And training with this 76 million that we have on the screen right now. How can we do that? So if I were to ask a city council member right now or whoever's in charge, I would say, how do we use this 76 million to train our officers better in de-escalation?
Well, here, let me look at this. It says, this is something from my notes. One survey of 280 different law enforcement organizations reported that new recruits received an average of 58 hours on shooting a gun and using deadly force and only 8 hours on de-escalation violence.
And how many on the excessive force bit?
That's all I have right there.
Well, how many was the first number?
50.
50?
58 hours on shooting a gun and 8 hours on de-escalation.
Even from the other side, 58 hours is not enough training to how to shoot a gun.
Yeah, no, like both are so
both are
low.
wrong. And so where is all this money going?
Well, see, like the thing that really gets me is 8 hours on de-escalation. Like what you just asked about, like excessive violence or brutality, however you asked it. Like that's essentially what that's getting at. Like de-escalation violence, like that's basically like their training and how to handle a situation. Mm-hmm. 8 hours. That's,
Can we use that money to make that go longer? And who's in support of that? We'll have to do the research on the candidates for that.
That's we don't have to get as super. We can just talk about this in an abstract sense and like what we just like want to see. But like 8 hours is just like that's like one shift.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it really is incredible. So like, and then there's this huge mystery of where all that money goes. And so, but I think that if there was a push, then we could make it happen. We can make sure that this money goes to something that would make it more to show the people who are lawmakers what's more important to this community.
Well, see, like, obviously, like when we like talk about like the defund the police movement, there's like a lot of there's like a lot of different sects that you see on the internet. You see people saying abolish, you see people saying reform. You see a lot of people talking specifically about changing law enforcement to more of a world where you can call a number and get a service that helps you based on your specific need.
Yeah.
But in general, like whoever's coming, you know, it's still
Needs
a human.
training.
It's still a human being, and a human being that can be corrupted and like subject to like a system that over time could get corrupted. So it's like, regardless of what we're doing, like in the world of law enforcement, you know, it's like when we say police and we say law enforcement, like we're not talking just even specifically about what we have now in terms of like police like who are like racist and corrupt. We're talking about like the past, present, and future of just
past, present, and future of law enforcement needs to be trained in de-escalation / even how to use their gun. I think that's important.
That's very important. I mean, like I mean, the thing is like if we're gonna be giving people guns, you know, it's like they should probably like know. They should know what's up because it's just like you see. I mean, first of all, it's like there should just be a number that people can call where people show up who don't have guns. Yes. Because the vast majority of 911 dialer calls do not require violent intervention. Mm-hmm. And 1 in 4 police shooting deaths are mentally ill people.
Yeah. Yes. And and then where's their aid, you know? Can we allocate towards, what under this would be towards mental health? Public works, utilities, public affairs, something, cultural development, fire, information technology, magistrate, management services. There's not even something that I would, neighborhood resources maybe. Be the one.
Well, here, like one thing I had in my notes is in Eugene, Oregon, an organization called Cahoots, which is crisis assistance helping out on the street, consists of medics and mental health crisis managers who respond to nearly 20% of public safety call volume. Right. So in this city of Eugene, Oregon, 1/5 of the public safety call volume was like going to this mental health focused.
I think that's where I think that's where, because you really got to think about like what is crime in America and why are we fighting a war against it with guns as opposed to fighting it with legislation and fighting it with increasing the quality of life in American citizens. Because increasing the quality of life in American citizens, I would argue, is the way to combat and nearly eliminate crime. I think you're always going to have murders. You're probably always going to have rapes. But other than that, like, what is there? There's drugs, right? Yeah. But that's a systemic law against something that isn't really, it's a crime committed within yourself to yourself.
Well, even then, it's like we should really be exploring decriminalizing like a lot of drugs, because obviously like marijuana at this point should definitely be legalized, because we have all these states where you have like a ridiculous amount of people in prison in a state where it's currently legalized.
Because the incentive system is to bring people into the prison so that they can make money for companies.
Well, we need to make for-profit prisons illegal, because the fact that like we have like a justice system where people are going to prison, but like in a for-profit system, like that's literally ridiculous.
That's also that is the responsibility in part by your district attorney, who it won't be on the ballot in this election, but in November there will be a district attorney election for Maricopa County, which can do things about sentencing and things like that. So keep on going.
Yeah, like with drug decriminalization, like right now, like the opioid epidemic is like absolutely ridiculous.
It's a universal issue.
Yeah, it's like really ridiculous, and like with the pharmaceutical companies, like they're over prescribing opioids like just like at a ridiculous rate, because like a lot of doctors are like financially incentivized to do it.
And and a lot of doctors are financially imperiled because of all the money that they spend for school.
Yeah, and also like these med companies, like not only are they like legally able to change the price of their drugs at any time without any explanation, but they're also lobbying a lot of like the politicians like at the federal level to change laws. So like we're definitely like at the grips of like opioid companies right now. But
that's your Senate. And the thing is like for your Senate, man, blue or red, you got to switch these guys out, like all of them, like. Like if your senator's been there for 10 years plus, just get him out, And so if we're looking, I mean, Martha McSally is new, but so I would, next time I come on, I'll do a little research on that higher election there, Martha McSally versus Mark Kelly, see where they stand on the issues and decide where I stand. But as far as like, you know, for the message I can get to anybody, just if your senator has been there for more than 10 years, less than that, you got to switch them out because they get stale, you know? And you got people out there who are winning and following this wave, but it's got to happen.
It's also interesting too, just like seeing like how many of these people are like familiar with like their own community and like which of them, you know, are kind of more career politicians and
Right.
they've just like been
Yeah,
in that
people who
seat
live
for a
in
long
DC
time.
as opposed to being with their district.
Yeah. Just to like wrap up like that like opioid discussion really quick, like I just really think that like we need to like explore like decriminalizing like a lot of drugs because like I believe it was Portugal like where they made all drugs legal, but then like not like overdoses and like drug use like plummeted immediately because like it gets it out of the underground, and like also on top of that, it's like instead of people being in fear of getting arrested, they can just like go get help.
They can go get help.
So like these like high school students that have like fentanyl patches, you know, like they're not really worried about talking to their counselor about it and getting arrested. They're just like, hey, like I can go to a safe injection center. Yeah,
I mean, if you just focused on aid, and you would eliminate the problem. If you do a prohibition, it's a cycle. We've already seen it. I mean, we've seen it in American history, but we see it unfolding between us with the cartels and everything. Prohibition is not the way to go.
Yeah, and I think that originally came up because you and I were saying that, like, in general, with, like, law enforcement, there really should be, like, a number you can call where somebody without a gun shows up.
Well,
we should have specialized people who, like, deals with, like, the specific call you're making.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the verbiage that, like, defund the police people are talking about. They're talking mostly about, like, creating, like, law enforcement where it's like, hey, like, we have a mental illness, like,
well, part of the problem is that we
specialists.
ask police to do a very wide range of things, you know? So they deal with everything from kids skipping school to, you know, murders and deaths. And so, like, if we could narrow that option, if police keep their guns and they do their thing and they go handle things that are live and active, then that's cool. But, you know, we have this situation where people who are in domestic violence situations don't call the cops because they go in, start another fight, as if that was what needed to happen in that situation, and arrest people. Yeah. And then just send them back home afterwards.
Yeah, no, having this blanketed system where it's just the same group of dudes who aren't that well trained, like showing up to literally every emergency situation ever, it's just like not good.
With guns, who are also stressed out. They have a hard job. There's no really getting around that. But it's an idea that if you're a little too squeamish, then you got to pick a different job. You know, you're the one who's choosing this, and you're enacting force on other human beings who are unsuspecting, who are innocent until proven guilty, who have rights under the Constitution. And that's what we should all want as Americans, is for everybody to get that.
Well, a lot of these guys are like ex-military with like PTSD and stuff, and then they become a police officer for a decade, and then they become like jaded towards society, and then like they're already part of like this like largely like
even
from a structural standpoint like racist organization. So then it's just let me like read this study I found. Like it says researchers studied more than 8,000 Chicago police officers named in multiple complaints between 2005 and 2017. Their analysis found that the more officers with histories of excessive force were in a group, the higher the risk that the other officers in that group would have complaints also lodged against them.
Yeah. So that's just a question of culture, right?
Yeah. So it's like really ironic too, because like, you know, Chris Rock like has that bit about like the whole
some
bad
jobs
apple
can't
thing.
have bad apples.
Well, what's fucking funny is like that allegory of the bad apple thing. Like when it's traditionally used, is always about how like one rottens the rest of the group.
Yeah.
And
so the original story was actually to tell you.
And like even with police, it's like, yeah, if you do have one, the rest like in like even by studies wind up like becoming like racist or like murderers or just like really fucking not good at their job.
They just get PTSD, like you said. Is like some of these people are ex-military. Some of them aren't, and they still get PTSD because they see a lot of things. And so, I mean, what can we do to mitigate that effect on people? And you know, and if we have $76 million, then why isn't it already happening? These are the questions we need to ask, and these are the questions we need to vote on.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you wanted to come on here and just like draw attention to the fact that we have like all these like state elections coming up. I'm sorry if I keep zooming out too much.
No, let's zoom out because I want to talk about it all, man. I mean, whatever feels natural, but I just brought it back because I just had the thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, keep hammering home to people that they gotta vote.
We gotta vote, baby. July 6th is the last day to register. Get in there.
Have you looked? This is a little bit of a separate topic. Have you looked in a little bit to like the whole foreign intelligence trying to like tamper with like U.S. elections thing?
No, I believe it. I mean, I believe that happens at a certain extent.
There's this really good documentary I recommend anybody who's voting watch. It came out on Netflix in 2019. It's called The Great Hack. The general premise is that in the 2016 election, there was this British company called Cambridge Analytica that was even co-founded by Steve Bannon, like Trump's guy. And they had two corporate missions. It was to elect Trump and cause Brexit, and they publicly claim credit for doing both those things. And they were basically like a data mining website, and this is one of the big reasons why I'm like so vocal about like data rights as a property right, because basically what they did is they like just like siphoned our data using Facebook, including like personal messenger app messages, and I'm not even entirely sure how they went about doing that.
What's up?
Nothing, sorry, just box was loud. They created like 5,000 data point profile on like every registered voter in America, basically, like who at least has their data out there, right? And they basically like narrowed this down into a group called the Persuadables, and then they basically just plunged like thousands, if not millions of dollars into really highly targeted ads to try to just like push Americans into the most like diametrically opposed versions of themselves ever. And their biggest strategies of how to do it was like this foreign company literally made like fake Facebook event pages for Blue Lives Matter marches, Black Lives Matter marches, memes, Trump memes, Hillary memes, Bernie memes, and they basically were trying.
People just stirring the pot.
Yeah, they were literally stirring the pot and just trying to like make like both liberal activists, right activists, white supremacists, Marxist U.S. radicals, like all these people just believe what they believe so hard that it created this environment where everybody just hates each other, doesn't want to have a conversation, and like their biggest.
We're weaker for fighting.
Yeah, and there was this like New York Times or Washington Post, whichever, like article recently, basically saying that like intelligence has confirmed that Russia was doing the same thing simultaneously with media groups, and they're still doing it for the 2020 election. And it basically said that like one of their biggest goals was to create a U.S. I'm not voting movement and like try to like disenfranchise like black voters. And now,
well,
like,
I mean, they that argument is a little bit solid right now.
And like like right now, like I hop on the internet and I see a lot of people just saying like I'm not voting because things are so busted.
Yeah, as a person of color, as a person who has two black parents, who's a little bit fair skinned, who does have to acknowledge his colored privilege. If you don't want to vote in the general election, vote in the local election. Because I understand. Joe Biden, he wrote the crime bill. He went, after being the vice president of the United States, he went on Charlemagne and said, "You're not black." He's telling black people when they're black and when they're not. These are problems, legitimate problems. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is having tear gas fired on peaceful protesters in D.C. so he can go across the street to have a photo op. Two very bad options. But you have senators, you have city council members who can defund the police for you if you make them. So we got to vote somewhere. And I understand if you can't conscientiously vote in the general election, but vote for your senators, vote for your council members, and vote for your district attorneys, because that's the next step. We're talking, we got to defund the police so people can get into jail, but that's not winning. Jail is out here still putting people in working for Walmart and Amazon, and that's I don't know the facts of that, but I do know that there's people working for 50 cents on the dollar in prisons right now.
I don't have like the exact numbers and like the exact country, so like what I'm about to say what is a little bit not
risque,
a little bit, but like I was listening to this other podcast, and like the guy was like a historian / economist, and one thing he was saying was like prisons in one of the Scandinavian countries, I don't remember if it was Sweden or Denmark or whichever, but he was saying that like there was this study found that like prisoners from there like leave prison with like a 40% higher ability increase because they do so many programs and like reform opportunities with them like while they're in there, that like they literally like exit with like
Because you want to heal the system.
Yeah.
Whereas we have the exact opposite.
While here, like, we have like a 100%, if not more, like, decrease.
Well, because the thing is that you can't vote if you're a felon. You can't get a job. You get a job a lot harder. You can get a job if you're a felon, but it's a lot harder to get a job if you're a felon. And a felony is possessing weed in a country where weed is legal in some places and then in not. So we have this system. I mean, like, it's just that kind of stuff is just like, okay, well, if you're in this little dotted out spot of the land, then you're good. If you're in this little dotted out spot, you're going to jail. You can't vote and you can't get a job. And that's just bonkers because the law should be somewhat unified over this beautiful country that we have.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. Like, even if you're not like morally like able to vote for like the presidential election, like at least doing local is good because like that's where you have like your local legislature, and it's like like we said, it is really hard to pay attention to this stuff, but it's like hard. if you do your Googles for a weekend,
which we will do as well. We'll come back with you because the election is on August 4th. So we'll probably be back somewhere mid-July and talk about Mark Kelly. We're going to talk about the council members in Chandler and Gilbert. And
I need to get to the bottom
Scottsdale.
of why there's all these freaking attack ads on him about like
being
now
that's
like
interesting, right?
A China guy.
Yeah.
It's literally
Mark Kelly might be bought by China, y'all.
No, I can't. We can't be putting that out there because what's crazy is that those are like Martha McSally bot ads.
Well, let's do it, man. Let's get on the algorithm with Martha McSally.
No, I don't. Think, I have a theory that I don't trust her.
Yeah, well,
I need to do my research, but I have a theory she's not good.
We're gonna do our research on the both of them.
She was tweeting out the other day that she thinks that like Arizonans should get a tax credit for going on vacation, and it's like it's cool that a Republican senator is all for like giving people money to do things of like leisure, but it's also like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be vacationing during COVID. Yeah. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, what are we gonna do, man? Like, so with COVID, right? We got people who are out of work, who are sick. We got nurses who are working overtime. What needs to be done? Where does that power lie, right? I mean, well, that's Ducey, right? Ducey's not on the election, but what is he? He's got I'm just thinking about like what magic wand it then? Like what?
At a local level?
At a local level, what do we do about this COVID stuff, man? I mean, do we start? I mean, like, is the mask that? Go ahead.
Well, for me, bottom line, we need like just monthly reoccurring emergency payments. Like, obviously, I'm for a federal universal basic income, like in general, but more than ever right now during coronavirus, it's ridiculous that we don't have a month-to-month reoccurring stimulus. Right. The thing is like a lot of people who maybe before didn't think that universal basic income was possible.
This is your argument.
The people who checked their bank account and saw that $1,200 just there all of a sudden, I imagine a lot of those people were like, they can do this? Mm-hmm. The thing is it's like completely possible. And the thing is like nobody right now still has that money. Everybody immediately used it on either rent or groceries or debt or their kids or
money leaves
or something. Mm-hmm. And like that money stays in the local economy, which right now is fucking just in chokehold. Yeah. And and it's like as we delve further into like this automation job wipeout era, that's only going to get worse, even a post-COVID world. So when it comes to making things better for coronavirus, it's like, one, obviously we need to contain and eliminate the virus the way that some other countries like New Zealand did, just through honestly just much more aggressive lockdown nature. Just for anybody who's wondering, like Avery and I both got tested before this podcast.
That's true.
We tested negative for coronavirus. Yeah. So like we're all good here. But freaking like we need emergency cash payments because like homelessness is just gonna soar. Like poverty.
Homelessness is already getting a little bit worse from what I've noticed on the streets, like running around Chandler and Tempe and stuff. It's like there's just more people.
Well, the thing is like right now, like the eviction moratorium that the Fed that's gonna end in August. Ooh. So we're gonna see a lot of like U-Hauls on the street this next July. Yeah. Or like
I'm already seeing it. I'm already seeing it.
Yeah, no, we're like for real. Like we have 43 million people unemployed, and what I was saying before is with 42% of those jobs never coming back, that's 18 million. Mm-hmm. That's double of the recession. In the recession, it was 7 million jobs. Yeah. So it's like things are kind of Great Depression-y right now. Yeah. So it's like the idea that we're not at a sharpening point right now of our economy where it's not necessary to give people month-to-month payment just to exist is ridiculous, because people who think like, oh, people are going to get lazy or we're paying them for nothing. It's like, no. People aren't going to exist without this, and we're not paying them for nothing. We're paying them to do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's really what it is, you know, because
I remember Yang said, like, it's capitalism that doesn't start at zero.
Yeah, it's capitalism.
And if
that
you
doesn't
fail,
start
then you
at
fail,
zero.
but you at least will always have that $1,000 to come back on. So you can compile that, invest in your business. If business fails, at least you don't have to be on the streets.
Well, because like a big thing that like some people talk about is how like the dichotomy between capitalism and socialism is kind of like a little bit of an unproductive conversation, because the idea that we're gonna like wave a magic wand and be like, we're not a capitalist society now, we're a socialist society now. No. That doesn't really mean anything, you know. It's like all kind of done through like over time policy changes and just setting things up to be more functional for the, not even the working man, just people.
Right.
And we've been a pseudo socialist society for the last 100 years, you know, with like all the New Deal stuff. It's like
New Deal stuff, but also, you know, socialist programs like the fire department and the police department.
Yeah, so
which everybody pays taxes for and gets for free when they call them up.
Yeah, so our society has like existed off of socialist ideas for a while, but then we also have the idea of a free market. It's just right now like our country overvalues like GDP and employment numbers as the measures of how well the country
GDP and the stock market as well. You know, we know that people are doing well when the Dow goes up.
Doesn't
even
mean
though
anything.
the Dow is like, you know, well, it's been going up, it's been going down, but it's been staying pretty okay. Like I have an investment that's been kind of chilling, even though we're skyrocketing in unemployment, as you said, which is really more of a gauge of how the American people are doing.
Well, it's just like what we've learned is just like, regardless of if like the stock market is going up or down, it's like I believe that some ridiculously small number, like only like 10% of Americans own stock, and then within that 10%, 90% of it is owned by like the top 1% of people or something. You would have to double check those numbers. It's something analogous to that, where like if you look at, you know, the 233 million Americans that exist, the vast majority of people's lives are not really affected by the stock market. So it's like, what do you measure the success of America by? You measure it by, you know, health and happiness rates, by education, by clean water, by all, you know, just by how people are doing. Yeah. And it's like when we have this like extreme winner take all economy, it's like we're going to get to a point where people just need like some level of padding. So when you have a global pandemic and you're telling everybody to not go to their jobs, stay inside, don't go to the grocery store, it's like
Dang.
Yeah.
Something else we'll have to look into, because I was just kind of thinking about it, was the so another part of the election that's coming up on the 4th is going to be the state Congress and the state House. And those people, we have some elections for that, and they're broken down by district. And so I think we'll have to find out. Maybe we'll do this next time, where we find out which districts exactly are which cities. But there's a whole list of them, of people who are in line. And that goes into something that I just thought about that we might be forgetting a little bit, is the situation at the border with people with children who are left in cages and things like that.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm like not nearly as updated about that as I probably should be. Yeah. I really don't know what's going on with ICE in general, but every now and again, like I see people bringing attention to it, and you still see those photos. And I saw recently somebody like saying something about like X number of kids have gone missing. Yeah. Like and it's like, what the fuck does that?
Missing. There's some allegations of, you know, sexual misconduct.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean,
things
just,
like that
just
going on.
Knowing that like corruption is happening just in every institution, and you know, you just have these.
Yeah, and so I brought up the senators, the state senators, for that reason, because that's also on the ballot, and doing the research on who's around and what opinions are on that is going to be something that's in their power, which you have the power to choose who has the voice in that conversation. So this is a very important election, especially in Arizona. You know, we're actually, for all this shit that we get, we're actually in the center of a couple of different things. We're in the center of this COVID pandemic. We're number one, baby, and we're also a state that suffers from a lot of police misconduct as well. You know, we haven't really been to the top, but you know, rest in power, Deion Johnson, and also the young man who was in Mesa, who had an AR-15 pointed at him, and the cop was telling him to get on his knees, and then immediately after put your hands up, and and that's just something that goes into training, right? So if you want to split out your commands, right? Because this kid is just standing there, he gets down on his knees, and he forced him to crawl up to him, and he still shot and killed him. I forget his name.
Jesus.
But that happened in Mesa, And another situation happened in Mesa where the police stopped a family because their daughter had stolen a Barbie doll. And,
was that
was on
was
Trevor
that
Noah.
that video? Yeah.
Yeah, where they came in. So AZ is a part of this. And again, so...
And yeah, like going back to like what we were saying, like the numbers say that apparently police have 8 hours of de-escalation training, which is like one shit. It's like in theory they should be doing like 8 hours a day every
8 hours a
week.
day, 8 hours a week, something. Because what did my man Jocko Willink say on Joe Rogan's podcast? 20% of your time,
right?
And I think that's totally reasonable. I really think we should be listening to our military and our police about how we train these people, because there are rules of engagement in the military where if you're out in a foreign country, you take control of the situation and you de-escalate, and you don't go around and killing people who are innocent. So that the American foreign presence, which is pretty analogous to what's going on, is that you have these police officers who are from the communities that they're policing. But if that's going to be the case going forward, then how do we have practices of how foreign forces work in other communities, and how we do that in a way that makes people feel safe. Now we do that in a way that causes the least amount of death, which is what we ideally the amount of death that happens in contact with police officers should be 0.
Yeah.
But we're talking about hundreds and thousands over the course of many years, hundreds in a couple of days.
Yeah, no, like since George Floyd, it's been like over 150 or so people.
Yeah, and this shouldn't be unreasonable things to talk about. I'm willing to talk to whoever wants to talk about how we do it.
Here, the reports say that more than 1,000 people are killed by police officers or in custody each year. From 2015 to 2019, the numbers were 1,146, 1,092, 987, 992, and 1,004, about 3 Americans a day.
3 Americans a day.
That's absurd. You know, and like sometimes you see those graphics where it then compares us to other countries, and for them it's like 3 a year.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, man, is that, and the Constitution has always worked differently for different people, but the U.S. Constitution has trial by jury, the 8th Amendment, which is cruel and unusual punishment. So if you're selling cigarettes on the side of the street, you get a reasonable crime punishment for that, not typically death. You get the right to not self-incriminate. You get the right to, this is the 5th and the 8th Amendments. And they've been in there since, they've been in there right with the 2nd Amendment the whole time.
Yeah.
So we gotta give love to them all.
Well, in terms of like targeted solutions as well, like something, Bakari Sellers, who he's a black activist as well as a lawyer, and I believe he's a contributor to CNN as well. Like something he spoke about is how with Yang on their podcast together was how there really should be a federal oversight department for like investigating police misconduct, because like here let me.
Well, the way that it exists while you're looking is that police have something called qualified immunity.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a gigantic problem, because it obfuscates our ability to investigate when things go wrong. When somebody has 12 misconduct charges, police are held to a different standards of laws than what they enforce.
And a lot of it is because like district attorneys and stuff are building their cases with the police.
Which you can vote for.
Yeah. So like you have all these like state, but see the thing is like you have all these like state level people, like from district attorneys to judges and police. Like some, not all of them, but a lot of them know each other. It's like so even when we are like electing in these people we supposedly like, and we're filing complaints, a lot of them get completely overlooked because they are working with each other. So having like a department at the federal level where it's like this is their mainstay thing to do, because like when you look at somebody like Derek Chauvin, who had like 18 complaints.
Oh, it's somewhere around 18.
I thought
above 10. Above 10, which
complaints.
is enough. Yeah.
That,
multiple violence ones, and I think there was also one that involved a death before.
He shot like multiple people in the past, and it's like it's like let's. And like even let's say like we're talking about some different officer, and we were being generous and say that 4 of those complaints were not actual complaints. Even still, the other fucking 14, like that's absurd. It's like, why is this person still patrolling? And like here, police unions naturally see. So there's a lot of police union laws that like allow. So there's unions for police, and a lot of their laws are like.
And do you have a union? You know, like, he's got a union.
Police unions naturally seek to limit liability for the officers they represent. Common provisions in union contracts include restrictions on officers being interrogated after the fact, disqualification of certain complaints, officer access to privileged information while being interrogated, erasing records of misconduct over time, and an appeal for reinstatement. One investigation found that 24% of officers, 451 out of 1,881, who were fired for misconduct between 2006 and 2017 got their jobs back through appeal, in some cases over the objection of the police chief. So even some of these guys who are getting fired, a fourth of these guys who get fired, they get their job back. So even, you know, like while we're all like signing these petitions saying fire officer so and so,
they get fired and then maybe they come back.
If we don't, you know, put them like, you know, through the prison system, which also in of itself needs reforming. A lot of these guys like go to these police unions, file an appeal, and their police chief who reps them is like, come on back, or they just go to a different city where there's not really a steady.
That's the other thing.
There's not a steady data stream of complaints because in 2020, for whatever reason, we just don't have very good data streams of stuff going on. So if we had like a federal task force in charge of police conduct, you know, and if we had like a citizens line to be like, hey, this police force has like this one guy with this many complaints and nothing's being done about it. Because here, departments that went through federal investigations led by the Department of Justice and subsequently adopted new policies saw police shootings fall by between 27 and 35%. So right now, the Department of Justice does like some investigation, you know, and they just by doing that alone, like it
helps.
Yeah, it helps a lot. So if it's like we need federal oversight because right now, like you have these like DAs and people, and you know, because like Kamala Harris, for instance, who like she used to do some of that work. Even she came out saying the same thing, being like, well, they're gonna.
Well, it's just about the way that we diagnose crime in this country, right? Criminals are the enemy, and then coincidentally, criminals are of a certain color, usually. And so, I mean, like you said.
Well, when you say that, you mean specifically like when.
Specifically.
Like to the police force, like that's how they're like targeting. You mean?
No, well, even citizens as well. I mean, because like when you say defund the police, or when you say abolish the police, it's like, well, who's going to keep us safe? And that's a valid question, but how do we fix this societal issue on a level of not at the bottom when it's already too late? How do we fix? We should see crimes as a result of public issues, as opposed to what we see them now, which is results of people's racial traits, right? So people want to say that, you know, sometimes that certain races have an affinity to crime over others.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous.
And the truth of the matter is that people commit crimes across races to themselves usually. So this is the black on black crime argument. Crime exists. And then violent crime exists between people just not having a good time. But if you upgrade the general quality of life, which is something that would be easily solved by universal basic income, but there are other ways to do it. If a simple thing that you could do would be healthcare, to make sure that people can at least, you know, not have to worry about dying and not have to worry about losing a job and also having to give up healthcare for their children.
Well, yeah, it's like if you look at like a famous example of like Mike Bloomberg instigating, you know, the stop and frisk policies in New York, which he shouldn't have done, and how there's like audio or emails or whatever it is out there of him basically saying that he was wanting to target like black areas and stuff like that. It was because he was trying to diagnose the problem by saying like, oh, well, these people commit more crimes. But then it's just like, okay, obviously a type of person is not more inclined to be a criminal, but if you have like a certain type of people who are like more inclined to economic inequities or desperation. If you don't
have money, then you might need to steal.
Yeah, shit like that. So like we're saying, like, you know, voting at a local level and voicing your opinion more to have like economic things. It's
not going to solve all the problems.
No.
But
no, obviously. I mean, we're just bouncing from topic to topic.
Exactly.
You know, but it's just like basically what we're saying is like the government really should be here more to like support the people than try to just be like diagnosing like who's more inclined to be a bad person. Who's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
man. And you just got to look. Because here we are at 24, right? And I don't know, this is sort of how I conceptualize it. I don't know if you conceptualize it this way, but one day someone's going to handle this problem. one day we're gonna just beat racism. People are gonna be all right, or I'm gonna find my way to get in here. Somebody else will take care of it. But it's coming down to us. I mean, you look at what's happening in older generations and what they've done before us. They did what they were told to do, and they did what they felt was right. But we have more information than anybody ever has had in our lifetime.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, I'm too much of like a practical realist guy to not be a generally cynical guy. Mm-hmm. But to me, that's not because like I think nothing's ever gonna get done. I just want to be like pragmatic about like what's actually gonna happen. Right. But that being said, like I love the world too much to not be filled with hope, because, you know, sometimes I have conversations with people about like, hey, here's a really cool policy idea, or here's a candidate I'm excited about, or wouldn't it be great if this happened? And a lot of the time these days, people who maybe on a moral or conceptual level agree with you, but then they'll lead the conversation by being like, that'll never happen, or you'll never convince people of that, or, you know, and like their whole demeanor gets deflated. And the thing is like, that's only true, but it's because they're kind of projecting that everybody else is also like that. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And then it's just like, well, man, if you decide that you're not like that, and then we all come together.
Yeah, it's a kind of mental virus, right? Yeah. So like it just like that kind of stream of thought gets to somebody else's head, and like, okay. And then it manifests itself. And so, you know, that's basically what we're trying to do here, is trying to manifest another thought. Is that, you know, you can go onto Google, you can see where the funding is, you can decide if you like that or not, and then you can do something about it. And all you got to do is register to vote on July 6th, before July 6th.
One of the things you can do.
Yeah, it's one of the things you can do. You can do all sorts of things, but you can register to vote for July 6th. Vote in the elections for your city council member all the way up to your local district state senator / house member.
I want to go back and see who all those mayors were. Yeah, so there's a mayor up for election in Apache Junction, Avondale, Buckeye, Carefree, Cave Creek, Fountain Hills, Gilbert, Glendale, Guadalupe, Mesa, Paradise Valley, Scottsdale, Surprise, and Wickenburg. That's a lot of Arizona mayors. And Tempe just elected a new one, like on the last election. And he takes office in like 3 days or so. So
yeah, really soon.
That's a lot of Arizona cities about to either just have the same dude or, you know. Like,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, so... Yeah.
So look, and like some of these guys, maybe they're okay, but just you know, look, and we'll try to look with you as we go on into this process, because this is the first time that I've tried to look into the, you know, when Hillary Clinton, that was the only other election I voted in, Hillary Clinton and Trump.
Yeah, that's when you and I were able to vote for the first time.
Yeah, it was for the first time.
What a great first election.
Hey, it's gonna be a great first. It's gonna be a great second election too, man. We're gonna have a terrific track record of the elections Biden. That we can do. Yeah. We'll see, though. I mean, I have a lot of faith in the younger populace of America. Well, and the effect they've had on everybody else.
I would just hope, like, obviously, like, there's intrinsically, like, a lot of issues with Biden, and he just does not really represent, like, the change agent that we want. Yeah. That being said, with him being presumptively the guy we're going to have, if he doesn't drop dead, or if the DNC...
Which he might drop dead, which is incredible.
Or if the DNC doesn't just be like, sneak attack Bernie, here's all the delegates, which isn't really going to happen.
It won't be... They might do that to somebody else, but not Bernie.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be Bernie v. Trump. And then it's like, with that given option,
Biden v. Trump.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Biden v. Trump. With that given choice, it's like, okay, how do we like make the most of this? And one thing that's interesting is like, if it were not for Bernie, Yang, and Warren, apparently Biden is technically the most progressive like candidate of like Democratic history,
he's just absorbed.
Which in one way is really sad, because he's like some people make the argument he's like basically a Republican, but then it's like, for what we have, you know, it's like, okay, at least he's like pro $15 an hour.
He's had to concede left a couple times because of the movement with Bernie Sanders.
Well, like the day of his final debate with Bernie, he announced that he was adopting like debt forgiveness that Bernie and Warren had proposed, as well as one of the other major policies that Bernie and Warren proposed. So he was literally like, okay, I'll take some of your guys' progressive stuff. But even outside of that, it's like he is pro $15 an hour. He's pro high-speed rail, pro choice. You know, he does have, and the other thing too is like a lot of times like I'll see him like tweeting things like we should send drug addicts to treatment centers instead of a jail cell. And, then I'll see, like, a lot of people in their replies, like, with, like, old videos of him where he was pretty much in the opposite, and they'll say, like, oh, we remember what you said.
Well,
My thing is, like, I do completely understand that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But my other thing is, like, I would like to think that people change and...
Well, even if it's disingenuous, at least he's pressured to have these ideas, right?
Yeah.
Now that the cat's out the bottle, now the George Floyd incident has brought all these issues to the table, and everybody's really strongly putting pressure in that direction, it doesn't really matter what left person is going to get into the office because Trump has made his position clear. And, there are people on the right who, like, what was his name? Tim Scott, who was talking about his bill for police reform, which wasn't defund the police, but it was a solution, right? Mm-hmm. And so I kind of lost my initial point but my point there was that it's on both sides, right? This is almost a bipartisan issue. Police brutality has kind of become a bipartisan issue now after George Floyd. Defund the police is not a bipartisan issue because people are worried about losing the police because some people are still scared of criminals.
Well, I think that there's like a vast miscommunication on what's even meant by it, because I think a lot of people on the right, like, they think that people are literally advocating for, like, anarchism and
like no police tomorrow, which is not what anybody's saying.
Well, not even just that, but just zero law enforcement of any kind. Like, I think a lot of people on the right, like, literally think that people just want, like, no law enforcement of any kind in any way, and, like, no emergency hotline, and then it's like maybe there are sects that want that. I don't know.
Yeah, but there are anarchists, but
there are anarchists. But then in general, it's like you look at, like, the majority of that dialogue. That's not really what they're saying.
Right.
They're like,
I think the vast majority of people who are saying this just want to be safe, and whatever we can do to get to that place is is going to be good enough. Not good enough, but like it'll be a start.
With Biden, my main point is just like, regardless of if somebody's saying something that seems like really contrarian to, like, who they used to be, it's like, if it is in the direction of, like, positive change, I'm like, okay, well, I get the frustration, but isn't it the best case scenario that they're now in favor of what we want them to be in favor of?
Yeah.
It's like, because the other thing with, like, Trump, it's like the day he got elected, it's like it's like nobody wanted him to, a lot of people wanted him to be, I didn't want him to be president.
Yeah.
But then it's like the day he got elected, it's like our best hope was that he was good at it. It's like we shouldn't want him.
There are some people, who are like, I hope this motherfucker burns down. And like, I get the sentiment, but like, you're still here, like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, listen, man, like, so it's like, hey, Trump's gonna be president, so like, let's hope that he it's like the Dave Chappelle thing where he's like, okay, let's give him a shot, and then it's like, it turns out he was awful, so it's like, okay, we're never mind, let's get him out of here.
I mean, there's some evidence that is what people are waking up to. I think, because Biden's ahead in a lot of polls right now, and sometimes by 10 plus.
That's what I'm getting at. So, like, when it comes to the whole, like, we're not voting movement and fuck Biden, stuff like that, I completely get it, because he wasn't even, like, my fourth choice, really. But like, he, it's like, if we are gonna have him, I don't want. It's like, okay, if he's representing the left and you're on the left, like, I don't want to be just, like, spending all of my energy, like, derailing him every single second. And then it's like, if he's coming out in favor of something I'm in favor of, I don't want to be, like, just jumping in the replies being like, well, you didn't used to be for this. I'm just like, that doesn't seem like a good use of energy.
Yeah, you want the net positive for whatever you're morally after.
Yeah.
Which, for me, is the safety of American citizens, particularly the American citizens of my color. Mm-hmm. And,
Yeah, he, I don't even know what he has said about any of that, to be honest. It seems like he's going the strategy of just
he's quiet right now.
I think Biden's team realized that the more quiet he is, the bigger chance he has of winning.
Yeah, but that's because his mental state is literally failing him, which is something to think about.
Yeah, I'm kind of iffy on that, to be honest, because on one hand, I used to be completely in line with everybody, thinking, okay, there's like really clear cognitive decline here with Biden. Then I kind of started tuning into his podcast, because he has his own.
Biden has a podcast?
Yeah, Biden has a
podcast.
He has a podcast, and he did one episode with Jay Inslee, who is the governor of Washington, who ran for president this year on the platform of climate change. He wanted to be the climate change president. And he did another podcast with Yang, and I listened to those two.
Yeah.
What I'll say about like listening to Biden in that context, where it was like his discussion versus like him being on CNN, where they're like constantly trying to create a gotcha moment. He was like completely coherent and made sense and was talking fine the entire time, and he was having like a good conversation. what I was really, and he was really just kind of deferring to them the entire time about like, okay, so you're the expert on climate change, or you're the expert on automation and cash give outs.
Which I don't have a problem with.
And he seemed like he was willing to kind of defer to people smarter than him on specific issues, and it made it seem like, okay, if he were president, he might do the Obama thing of trying to have good people around him and to solve the issues. And it seemed like he had an open mind to the correct subjects. Mm-hmm. What I really wasn't hearing was him himself having the hard data and numbers, which is really sad. But what encouraged me is like when he was talking, he really wasn't stammering or having any of those classic cognitive decline clip moments that you see when he goes on MSNBC, which kind of makes sense because I feel like even the smartest of the people we know, like
we'll have when you're on live TV,
you throw Dr. Cornel West on Fox News, you sometimes even get like a little like weird moment or two, you know. So
he's been fighting on Fox News right now.
He's been
Cornel's been fighting.
Yeah, they keep putting Cornel West against
like to Cornel West. We appreciate you.
We love Cornel. So I do think that like Biden is obviously like not as sharp, as he should be or would be, and he probably should not be the nominee. But like I was a little bit encouraged seeing him in his own corner versus like on the media corner. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's definitely good to hear contrary beliefs to the main line of thinking. People have people have mental episodes and then they have points of respite, but he's the best option out of the two for me. But
that's how I really feel. I'm just like how even just looking at like everything Trump's been doing like the last 3 weeks alone, it's like how am I in good conscience like not gonna like.
Well, he's got. Definitely the moment where the moment where he went across the street with the protesters and fired tear gas on them. That was some really heavy infringement stuff coming from the man himself after making a speech about going into cities, using the military to dominate citizens.
Oh,
with the tear gas canisters popping in the background, sounding like bombs, and it was a horrifying moment. Like legitimately, like I was kind of shook into my core when I watched that video. It was really like I think we'll be watching that later in history books and stuff like that.
The official U.S. library of Donald Trump is going to be the most bananas thing on the.
And we needed it, man. It's a shame that our culture is that of we need something to keep our attention, and maybe we got to mature in that way as Americans, and I think that's true. So let's just start thinking more critically about ourselves, and let's not try to have a fight about like haha we were right, because I think everybody's suffering for this right now, and I think everybody's suffering for not having people who are fighting for them in Congress, people who are, working for companies and over here, like making sure and making to great lengths that, certain people get breaks and certain people don't. And all we really need is an equitable society.
Yeah.
So how do we get there? It's going to be a long fight, but you got to vote for your senators. You got to vote for your council members.
Cool.
And you got to register to vote. On July 6th.
That's a great note to leave this on. I just to make it about you for just a moment. Do you have anything to plug? I know you've been working on comic books. You've been doing a lot of dope stuff.
I work for a company called Noir Caesar. It's a company founded by Johnny O'Bryant. Used to be a player for the Charlotte Hornets. Used his extra money to start a little company of his own. I've been working for them for about 2 years. They have artists such as Nicholas Draper Ivy. You can follow him on Instagram. Mikhail Sebastian and Winnaball, which you can follow them all on Instagram. Their main titles are going to be Exogenesis Primus 7, which we're starting the development on for Volume 2, and I'll be one of the writers on there. Also coming in 2021 will be The Evolution of Autumn Walters, which is an idea from Forneverworld Tim Hoffman. And if you're a YouTube stan for Naruto, you might know Tim Hoffman for Neverworld. And he's got a concept about a young girl who is starting her rap career. And so there's some cool stuff in that world. And then we have another concept called Sun Eater, which we're really excited about, which is about a young man who finds out that he will be the end of the world. So Black content, Black owned, Black created. And if you're looking for some imaginary stuff to get you out of this world, you can go onto noircaesar.com or Noir Caesar at Noir Caesar for Instagram and Facebook. Give us a follow and just support Black businesses. So thank you, Zane, for having me out,
yeah,
man.
Absolutely. So one more time, you can register to vote in Arizona before July 6th, and Avery and I are probably going to do a follow-up podcast to just talk more about this from a little bit more of a researched point of view. I think he and I might just choose a few specific candidates to do research on, so then we can just kind of chop it up and be like, here's what I found about this Mark Kelly guy.
Yeah.
And
we gotta talk about him.
We might be phoning in a special guest to help navigate that conversation. You guys can see what that's all about. There's my little clickbait for you. And we think we might even do a part 3 after August 4th just to talk about what happened. And, I love Avery.
Yeah.
I love Avery.
Hey, and I love Zane, man.
Anything to get him in here more.
Yeah, man, I'm rooting for you, bro. If you make it, then I can make it, bro. Same city, same time. Let's go.
Oh, beautiful.
And a happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, you too.
Yes, sir.
You too.
All right, man.
All right. Amazing. All right.
Peace.
Let me hit the camera. Oh, I think that went well. It went well.
That was
It wasn't recorded. No, I'm kidding.